Hey. Well, good evening, internets and nonfiction branders. It's me, DP Knudten, for another Bookward Bound, my 301-day journey from I should really do this to done. And what am I talking about getting done? I'm talking about getting a brand new book done by January 1st, 2021, the day upon which I shall be uploading press-ready PDF files to Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing platform, where I will be self-publishing a brand new book called NONFICTION BRAND. Discover, craft, and communicate the completely true, completely you brand you already are. That's the cover, and that's what I've been doing every night since Friday, March 5th of 2020. Coming down here every single night with the exception of 2 where I had Lyme disease, of all things. Yeah, crazy, huh? But I've literally done live streams every night for 272 days. And that means I only have 29 left before I have to have these files done. So I better get to work. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And what am I doing right now? Well, I'm actually going through and I'm reading and editing each of the sections in real time, in real life, in front of you. Because I think stylistically, I love to have my voice in my copy, so the best way to do that is to check it out vocally to see if it is in fact reflecting my personal branded voice and tone and style. So last night I turned several of these 3 sections that I'm pointing to right here. I turned them from blue sections to green flagged sections, which means they're pretty much ready to go, at least until I get over to Microsoft Word, where I'll be doing the final finishing and formatting of the book. But I haven't taken this all the way to finish yet, so I'm going to tonight. How am I doing it? I'm going to be speaking it. Literally reading this out loud, looking for rough spots that I can polish out. So let's get going. Differentiation, then demonstration. In an earlier section of the book, The Birth of Brand, I made the point that the number one job of branding was differentiation. I still believe that to be true because no matter how similar 2 products may be, consistently communicated brand messages in the form of words, video, audio, and both still in moving images. Oh, I don't like that. That's in words, video, and audio. Words, imagery, because that would cover motion. And in words, imagery, and audio can universally define 2 near identical products so that they own unique, specific places, even in the minds of people who would never purchase said products. Need an example? Picture the background imagery in ads for 2 brands of 4-wheel drive vehicles, Jeep and Land Rover. One of those ads is set on the plains of the Serengeti in Tanzania. The other is in the deserts of the American Southwest. Which brand fits where? Point made. The need to differentiate yourself from all others doing what you do has been made numerous times throughout this book for a reason. It is absolutely critical that anyone wishing to have a successful career in literally any field must find a way to clearly and consistently communicate who they are, what they do, and how they do it. Who they are, what they do, and how they do it in a way that makes it first impression obvious how they are different. And the only way to do that is through demonstration. ROUGH, through demonstration. You can say whatever you want, but people react most actively to what they can see for themselves. I am a highly skilled medal-winning female Romanian gymnast. That is, of course, a lie, but I can say anything I want. The real test of any message is not in the saying, but the showing. And right now, there's no better or more affordable place to show your stuff than social media. I can hear some readers groaning in pain after reading that sentence, and believe it or not, I share that pain. But I'll also be perfectly honest with you. Never in the history of humankind has there been a more powerful way to demonstrate your completely true nonfiction brand story for little more than the cost of a computer, a broadband account, and as much sweat equity as you care to invest. For some, the phrase social media is the contemporary equivalent of another much maligned expression, eat your spinach. It may be good for you, but it definitely leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths. That's why I use another descriptor for this incredible set of communications power tools. Style stages. Because I talk about style stages. Style stages, come on. That's what because style stages. That's exactly what they are. That's exactly what social media channels are. And the reason you should be on them. All it takes is a registered username and password, and you can have access to the entire logged on world. And the cost of such memberships? Nothing. Sure, many of the platforms have paid versions that offer more functionality and features. But if my dirty little secret must be told, I don't pay for any of them, at least in terms of cash. This ain't my first Ram rodeo. This ain't my first Ram rodeo. What the hell does that mean? I know the old truism that if you're not paying for it, you're the thing being sold in reference to data such platforms are collecting about me. But like all, I'm using you, you're using me, symbiotic relationships, I'm out to get as much as I give. And if I'm doing this the best way, the right way, I'm getting. If I'm doing this the right way, I'm getting way more than I'm giving to the social media platforms, that is. The killer app of personal brand demonstration, giving everything you've got to as many people as you can for free. This is the hardest thing for anyone who uses the acronym IP on a regular basis. In many cases, protectable intellectual property is the only thing that separates one brand from another. A certain brand I worked on as a young copywriter prided itself on the fact that only a handful of people around the world knew its secret recipe. But here's the thing about recipes. Any competent cook can make them, but only master chefs get the premium credit for how they do it. The goal of social media demonstration should always be to reinforce the fact that you are, in fact, a master chef at whatever you do. Take something simple yet indescribable. It's fitness training. Indescribable of all the things. Unownable fitness trainer. Of all the thousands, maybe even millions of fitness class teachers out there, why do only some of them break through to a wider audience? Because they continually demonstrate who they are, what they do, and how they do it to the point where even those who never leave the couch can recognize their photos. The same dynamic is true in every field of human endeavor, and I am not kidding. Earlier in the book, you read about Justin Baker, a social media strategist who works with everything. Works with everyone from a duo of classical cellists to pretty big-name Hollywood stars. But that's not all. He also personally provides social media services to the woman who's generally considered to be the unquestioned queen of her professional domain. She's quite the big deal if you're a court reporter. Yes, you read that right. Amongst court stenographers, her word is law. I love this example because before meeting Justin, I had never thought, even for a second, that there was an entire subculture dedicated to the profession of court reporting. And I certainly didn't know that subculture came complete with revered senior members like Justin's client. But of course there is. Every single activity, vocation, profession, and blue to white-collar occupation has its own mini universe of systems and stars. That Justin's client has demonstrated her mastery of the arcane skill. Is that spelled? Not archcane. Get rid of the H. Arcane skill of court reporting over her decades-long career. That is, I don't have to be all caps there. That is non-fiction branding in action. She shared her knowledge, experience, and expertise freely over the years, and now she's the undisputed sovereign of stenography. Even the smallest ponds can contain pretty big fish. So what about your pond? Who are the big fish in it, and why aren't you one of them? The more you give, the more you'll get. Every mother ever born has undoubtedly said the above at some time in her children's lives, and probably many more times than once, and probably more times than once, and probably more than once. Yeah, keep it simple. And is exactly right. The more you give of yourself, your experience, and your help, the more you're going to receive. Maybe not immediately. There are a lot of one-way road takers out there. One-way road takers out there, but by freely giving, maybe not, but by freely giving your most valuable assets, those gifts will return to you in a lot of unexpected ways. Example, I'm actively trying to grow the speaking and presenting side of my business. And as a story that proves that rule. Here's a story that proves that rule. I'm actively trying to grow the speaking and presenting side of my business. And as I began to seriously build this new service line for myself, I sought out the advice of many different people, all of whom had created the kind of speaking business I wanted for myself. One of the very first people I talked to was best-selling author and recognized LinkedIn strategist Wayne Breitbarth. Having seen him speak and participating and even get rid of that clause altogether. I knew he had the goods and he had the goods and the skill to present them. I asked him a very simple question. I had a chance to speak with him over lunch. I asked him a very simple question. How did you get your speaking career started? His answer, by speaking everywhere. By speaking everywhere and anywhere that would have him for free. I'll be honest, that for free part was not something I really wanted to hear, but I kept on with my questions. How many free presentations did you do before getting any paid ones, I asked. Around 100, he said. And he wasn't kidding, but there was a reason for it. He admitted his first presentations were not really worth paying for. The content was solid, but his presentation skills needed work, and so he worked on them everywhere he could, and eventually he was worth paying to have speak in an event, and his business took off. I look at those 100 free presentations not as opportunities to practice, although they were certainly that. I see them as opportunities to share all your best stuff, each time making deposits into an account in the general karma bank of goodwill. Someday, only after building up a sizable goodwill nest egg, your business will take off because you've developed an entire audience of people who know who you are, what you do, and how you do it. You will have earned that audience the authentic way by demonstrating your value, by sharing your most valuable. By sharing the most valuable things you have to offer. Wayne Breitbarth shared with me so freely and authentically that when I was looking for the very best example of someone doing a great job differentiating themselves and demonstrating their value, I immediately thought of him. That's how creating a completely true, completely you nonfiction brand works. Do it right, and good things will happen. Wayne earned this mention in this book, earned this mention here, a full 2 years before it was even an idea. He gave then, and I'm paying him back now. Thanks for all the help, Mr. Bright. B-A-R. Thanks for all the help, Mr. Breitbarth. All right. Let's see, where am I going? Let's say that's good for now. Change the icon to a green flag of doneness. And let's look at the Tony story, because this is a brand new story from, last week, I think. Meet a guy who's doing, got him fired, then hired. Better gig. Sometimes being true to the who you are can run into unseen obstacles. But an obstacle is a coin with two sides, one labeled challenge and the other opportunity. When faced with such a situation, you really have to do a choice. You really do have a choice of which side to fixate on. So what's it going to be, the challenge or the opportunity? Tony Piliceno, painting a self-portrait 1 gallon at a time. Ever notice how once you start thinking deeply about a concept, you can find amazing examples of it happening everywhere you look? That's what happened. That's what happened last night. As I was mindlessly scrolling through my RSS feed reader. A longtime ad guy that I am, of course, I follow Ad Age, one of the ad industry's most influential publications. It's one of my favorite early warning trend detectors too. Comment 2, often surfacing exciting new stuff well before it hits the mainstream, as the following example will attest. To set the stage, as I write this, businesses and brands are scrambling to figure out how to exploit the latest, greatest social media breakout hit, TikTok, as part of their comprehensive marketing efforts. And it's tough. One of the things that makes the platform so popular for its fans is that it's not yet been exploited by businesses and brands. By such businesses and brands. It's a haven for the young, the creative, and those who don't know better, which is why people who think they do know better are having such a hard time deciphering the code that makes this thing tick. Tick, huh? The Ad Age post that caught my eye was all about a TikTok creator named Tonster Paints, aka Tony Piliceno. Seems he not only enjoys paints, he is wonderfully obsessed with them. Seems as if he not only enjoys paints, he's wonderfully obsessed with them. A senior student at Ohio State University, Tony worked part-time for a local Sherwin-Williams paint store and fell in love with developing new colors using a variety of traditional and more TikTok impressively non-traditional color sources. And more TikTok impressive non-traditional color sources. After his sixth TikTok video garnered over 1 million views, he recognized the tremendous marketing potential he'd stumbled upon, so he created a pitch deck, which he shared up the ladder to Sherwin-Williams headquarters. Is it Sherwin-Williams? Let's look it up. Yeah, they have a dash. Yep, it's a dash. Sherwin-Williams headquarters. And what happened? He got fired. Long story. It's a long story. Long story, but it boils down to corporate bureaucracy and the fact that this kid was a little too entrepreneurial for a corporate's taste. Don't look sad, Tony. This story has an incredibly happy ending. But wait, there's more to his colorful story. Tony had built up quite an audience for his oddly soothing and satisfying TikTok videos. And when that community got word of his firing, things started heating up fast. Other paint companies recognized the lightning Tonster paints captured in a paint can, and suddenly offers started rolling in. After getting interest from just about every paint manufacturer in the United States not named Sherwin-Williams, Tony decided to join the team at a small company called Florida Paints. From the Ad Age 11/24/2020 post, I went through meetings with a bunch of companies, says Piliceno. The difference between them and Florida Paints is I was trying to get away from the corporate culture of things. He says Don Struby, founder of Florida Paints, was probably the only one who understood and appreciated his passion for paint. We both view it as an art form, he says. He cracked the TikTok code and his personal brands too. That Sherwin-Williams missed out on a huge opportunity with this kid is obvious to anyone with eyes. And will undoubtedly be written about by many others. But what I'm so jazzed about is that Tony not only cracked the code on TikTok, it's that he did the same for himself by being true to himself. How do I know that? Look at those last two sentences of the quote. Okay, so I don't need these bolded because I talk about him down here. The only one who understood and appreciated his passion for paint, we both viewed it as an art form. I don't know any of the details about offers from other companies, but I know if I was on their marketing team, I'd be throwing money at Tony in order to get him to use our products, with the logo showing, of course, or to engage with our company in any way possible. Tony chose to follow not the money, but his gut instinct that Florida Paints was best aligned with who he actually is, what he loves to do, and how he does it. In other words, Florida Paints gets his... am I going to go nonfiction brand? Maybe I am going to leave nonfiction brand better than any company, any other company out there. So now he's going to join their team. I love this story for so many reasons. Tony discovered his passion and embraced it wholeheartedly. He overcame any fear of a hot new medium to share his not exactly mainstream interest. He demonstrated his love for paint simply, creatively, and consistently. He shared what must have been one of the lowest points of his life, getting fired publicly. He kept going in spite of that setback. He chose the offer that was best aligned with who he truly is. He brought his company of community. He brought his community of over 1.4 million followers to date along for the ride. This simply could not have happened 5 years ago. A college senior in Ohio becomes a minor celebrity because of paint. Paint! I cannot get over that. He found a way to make paint sexy. Good job, Tonester. One more thing. One of Tony's most popular TikToks with over 1 million views to date shows him making a gorgeous blue paint out of actual blueberries. And now he's being the opportunity to make his own line of organically colored products with Florida Paints. Bet you didn't see that coming. Neither did Tony. But by putting himself out there, leveraging all the power of TikTok, incredible things could and did happen. All right, so nonfiction brand moral. Not BI. Tony put himself out there and caught an incredible wave. When that wave wiped him out, he could have given up and walked away, but he didn't. He got back up on the board and was at the right place at the right time with the right frame of mind about what was truly important to him to take advantage of an even bigger wave. I can't wait to see how his personal brand becomes an actual product brand. Just one question. Can you ship Florida Paints to Wisconsin? All right, so that's good. I'm going to convert icon to the green flag. Just had to deal with a kid issue quickly. Okay, so that's 2,000 words. Yeah, all right. Christian Small. See what size this is. Scale image. 240. So let's go 150. Okay. Yeah, it gets it above 320, which is what I want. Above 300. I want all the images to be at least inspired my one. Have you ever heard a story that not only captured your attention, but fired up your imagination to the point where the I should do something like that someday becomes I'm starting something exactly like that today? Today? Question mark? That's what happened. I say that's exactly a lot in this book, so I'm going to get rid of some of them. That's what happened to me when I heard the story from my friend Todd Austin, the same dude written about earlier in this book. Well, at Social Media Marketing World. Ooh, no. Later in this book, while at Social Media Marketing World in March of 2020. Todd, in passing, mentioned that a golf pro friend of his had just finished a pretty amazing self-imposed challenge, all because he wanted to see if he could qualify for the Australian Open golf tournament. That certainly piqued my interest, and what I heard next heated that interest up to a white-hot level. In order to prepare to qualify, this golf pro named Christian Small decided to do a daily social media post every day for 191 days, documenting the work he was doing to prepare for the event. That to me was just so cool and daunting and memorable. So much so that after returning from the event in San Diego, I immediately followed Christian's example by starting a 301-day live stream video documentary on the conception, designing, writing, formatting, and self-publishing of the very book you hold in your hands. And for that, I can't thank and curse Christian Small enough. Not content with the fragmentary information Todd was able to supply regarding Christian's Australian Open journey, I reached out to the man himself for the full story, complete with a deeper look into the blood, sweat, and tears involved in sharing his experience via social, and find out if he did, in fact, qualify for the tournament. The long story short, Christian didn't qualify, but boy did he ever inspire. In episodes 107 and 108 of the Nonfiction Brand podcast, I was able, that should be italicized. In episodes 107 and 108 of the Nonfiction Brand podcast, I was able to ask Christian about his impressive adventure. I initially thought it was all about him burnishing his golf professional credibility, but soon discovered his goal was far more personal. So last year, I was going along well. All was good. I had great kids, wonderful wife, and was teaching at a top golf facility in Sydney. Everything was good, and it just felt like something was missing. So then I thought, well, I need to sort of challenge myself. I felt like I was being a little bit complacent. I just knew I had to do something different. So I wanted to get on an adventure of some description. I wasn't sure what, and I wanted to test myself to see whether I could stick to something every day for a long period of time. And then I had a look at when the Australian Open was, and the qualifying was on December 2nd, 191 days away. The accountability I used was social media, and I felt like that was the only way I could be accountable. Truly, I didn't feel like I was disciplined enough to commit to a daily post if I didn't have someone that was actually keeping on me. So I started day one of 191 and did a post saying, we're going to make some changes. Christian Small, Nonfiction Brand Podcast, episode 107. Yep. Well, that's very strange. I have to say I was surprised by this answer. Perhaps a little bit unfairly, I initially thought that his 191-day thing was a bit of a social media gimmick. a version of one of those 30-day challenges everyone does to grab an audience. Challenges everyone does to grab an audience. Well, there's certainly an element of that involved, but there was also a very authentically personal reason Christian chose to take on this fairly ambitious challenge. This ambitious challenge. Period. He wanted to break himself out of old habits and self-imposed ruts in order to push himself to overcome past did not finishes and create a new, stronger, and more fulfilled life. This wasn't a gimmick. Period. It was a legitimate vision quest. But a funny thing happened on the way to the first tee of qualifying. A social media gallery began to form as he started daily posting on primarily Facebook and Instagram. Choosing a single word theme for each day, he'd write about how that specific theme related to the day's activities, good or bad, triumphant or disappointing. His authentic warts and all approach was purposeful and greatly appreciated by his followers. So I started playing and practicing again, and it just gradually, as I went through it, it started changing the range of aspects in my life, including training and fitness, including diet, including alcohol, and in essence, it was all for trying to find something within myself I felt was missing, So I was looking at my environment and people around me in a way I was handling situations and be sort of aware of my behavior and my actions and in mind, the way I respond. It may be that I think I'm looking for a way to change that. There was a selfish motivation to the accountability by putting myself out there. And I was very vulnerable. Like I had people contact me saying, wow, that is how you feel good. That is now. That whole sentence doesn't make sense to me. We can give that an ellipsis and a period and a space. Oop. But I just wrote from the heart at the end of the night. At the end of the night, and a lot of times I wrote it at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when I was pretty buggered after all day of either working or training or practicing or through, practicing. Let's leave that period. I was a bit, all right, let's just get this out before the end of the night because I've got to get up tomorrow and do it. Yeah, do it. Again. And yeah, it was fun. And yeah, simplify it a little bit. It was fun. I really enjoyed it, actually. Nonfiction Brand episode. It really took off from there. Unbeknownst to Christian, as he was hitting the keyboard after a long day hitting the links, what he was sharing via social was beginning to affect a lot of people. And over time, they started coming out of the shadows and started engaging with him in a number of interesting ways. By being very vulnerable himself and writing about the good and bad of his significant personal challenge, and writing about all the good and bad of this significant personal challenge, that gave his followers license to open up themselves. He didn't qualify, but he sure won. Before we go any further into Christian's story, we should probably answer the question you might have about his 191 day adventure. Did he qualify to compete in the Australian Open? Sadly, the answer is no. But that hardly matters in my opinion, because by completing this incredible quest, Christian won big. And apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks so. As he tells the story in episode 108 of the NONFICTION BRAND podcast, there were quite a few people who enjoyed coming along on his journey, and were inspired to do some of the things they've wanted to do by his completely true, completely Christian example. Perhaps the most impressive and unexpected illustration of his impact came in the form of a check. Here's Christian telling the story during the podcast. The thing was, I've got a guy who's a friend of mine who is a really inspiring guy who lives his life in an inspiring way, who I look up to when I was probably about 160 days in. He comes in one day and says, I'm following what you're doing, and I'm really inspired by it. I was like, yeah, right. Why? Like the whole time along, I didn't really feel I was doing anything special. But to get a guy who inspires me, who looked at the way I looked at the way he lives his life and the way he acts and responds and behaves, it was like a big thing for me to sort of hear that. And he said, well, he said, I'm retired. I've got everything going my way. I don't have any responsibility, and my life is fantastic. I can't get half the stuff done in a day you get done. Yeah, you're working and you've got a wife and family. It's a responsibility. And he said, what I want to do, whether you qualify for the Australian Open or not, he said, I want to reward you in some way for what you've done, because it's amazing practice. It's amazing to practice that 160 days of it. He said, well, I want to donate some money to a charity of your choice. All you got to do is finish 191 days. And if you do, I'll donate $10,000 to whatever charity. And I was like, wow, pretty cool to think that a person who, and it was at that stage in their life, he's retired. He's an amazing guy. He came to me and he was effective in a positive way by what I was doing. So that was a pretty moving moment and something that was pretty amazing, and something that in one of my posts after, I had another person, a lady, who said, I saw what you posted. I'd like to donate $1,000 also to the same charity. Dollars. Well, let's just leave it. $1,000 also to that same charity. So I ended up donating $11,000 to the Lighthouse Foundation, which is a charity that looks after kids who are in trouble at home in Melbourne. The NonFiction Brand podcast, episode 108. His 191 day adventure not only inspired himself, but who knows how many people around the world, including me. But wait, it gets even better. So Christian's Australian Open adventure took place through 2019 and ended in December of that year, just when, unfortunately, of that year when he did not qualify. After a quest of that magnitude, he did what anyone would do, take some time off. Just in time for the global pandemic of COVID-19. Like so many others, things had to change drastically for Christian. With small children at home, with small children to homeschool, he left his job to keep things rolling. At home. With small children to homeschool, kept things rolling and dialed back his activity on social quite a bit. But here's the thing I dearly love about his personal brand building story. All the work, all the work he put in through 2019 continued to pay off in 2020, even during a pandemic that left him housebound. How? Because he had done such a good job demonstrating who he is, what he does, and how he does it. Christian attracted some industry attention from those who appreciated just how different his premium personal brand was from that of other commodity golf teaching professionals. Put yourself in his golf shoes the days he was contacted by a top Sydney golf club. Someone there who evidently had major pull had seen at least some of the work he'd done during his 191-day adventure and was impressed enough to reach out to see if he'd be interested in working for them in any capacity. And based on whatever time he could allot for them. In other words, come work for us on your terms. Yes, you read that correctly. Christian did not have to seek out and apply for the job. They came to him with an offer he could hardly refuse in the middle of a global pandemic. That is the power of personal branding. They come to you because they know exactly who you are, what you do, how you do it, and how you're different, and how you're different than anybody else who does what you do. Who performs the same task you do. And how you're remarkably different than anyone else who performs the same exact task you do. Christian demonstrated all of that via the always-on social media channels of Facebook and Instagram. What did it cost him? His time. What did it give him? The accountability kick in the pants he needed. Why did it work? Because he shared authentically and at times painfully everything it took to get him ready to qualify for the Australian Open. Nonfiction brand moral of Christian's story: he didn't qualify, but he sure didn't lose. By doing what he did, the way he did, he proved himself to be a winner, the winner he truly wanted himself to, he truly wanted to be. Truly wanted to be. Let's leave it truly wanted to be. All right. So that's another section done. Cool. So 1, 2, 3. That's 3 more sections done. Lovely. Which means that's it for me tonight. I don't have to finish the whole book. I just need to make some significant progress on it. And with your help, I did. Because just like Christian and his peer pressure posse, you're making me come down here and work on this because you're part of my peer pressure posse. And I truly, truly want to thank you for doing that, because if it weren't for you, I would probably be upstairs lying on the couch watching TV, which is probably what I'm going to do for the next few minutes before I go to bed tonight. Thank you so much for keeping me honest and working on this. I'm well on my way. I still have, tomorrow will be 28 days left to go, or consecutive daily live stream 273 tomorrow. Today's 272. That's crazy to me, because when I started this, I was like, can I get this? Can I do this? Really? Do you think I can do this? And the answer is yeah. If you want to do it, get off your butt and do it. Or in my case, yeah, get off your butt upstairs and come downstairs, sit on your butt and do this. And I am. So I'm feeling kind of proud of myself, even though I'm pretty wiped out, and I'm still really, really nervous about this book because I don't know if it's any good. You know, I wrote it. I go through waves of mortification about this, but here's the one thing I learned. You don't get anything by not doing anything. So I'm doing something really, really big for myself, and we'll see where that goes. Because following examples like Christian's, that's pretty incredible what he did and what he got out of it. And I'm hoping some of his good luck rubs off on me. So there's that. I'm DP Knudten with the Nonfiction Brand podcast, which comes out every single Monday. Check out this week's episode with Kate Toon, who also happens to be from Sydney, Australia. She's really a great person to talk to, has an amazing industry of her own that she's created for herself, and I really have a lot of fun talking with her. So check that out wherever you get your podcasts for free. Just search Nonfiction Brand. Look for my black and white image, just like that, and the words Nonfiction Brand right next to that photo. And that's it, because that's the cover art for the podcast, and you'll know you have the right one. New episodes come out every single Monday, and I think this episode is 119. So if you want to go back and listen to all of them, I welcome you to do so. Also, if you like it, give it a thumbs up like. Definitely subscribe to it if you can. Refer it to other people, but can you do me a super solid and actually review it wherever you get your podcasts, because that helps other people find it. I would really appreciate that. That's it for me tonight. I will see you tomorrow. But first, theme music. Take us on out. See you tomorrow.